pour moi, c'est des thématiques que j'ai l'habitude de réaliser en anglais. Mais si vous avez des questions ou quoi que ce soit à la fin, n'hésitez pas, que ce soit en anglais ou en français. Malheureusement, je ne parle pas arabe, mais je ferai mon effort pour répondre comme vous le souhaitez. Donc, je vais partager mon écran. Mourad, tu peux me confirmer que tu...
Oui, oui, parfait, parfait. Great.
OK. So, hello, everyone. Good morning for all of you. Good morning for others like me, because I'm actually currently in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So basically, today's session will focus on the challenges and the solutions to access quality data and information in the Middle East and Africa region. And I believe these can also be applied to lots of other regions globally, obviously, but that's really one of our expertise, this region. As I already mentioned, if you have any question or comment, please wait until the end of the presentation when we'll have the chance to have a quick Q&A with you for a few minutes. And if necessary, you can also drop me an email. My contact details are available on the last slide of the presentation. Okay, so quick introduction on myself and the company. So I'm Frederic, I'm the head of growth at Cedar Rose and also the manager of the Dubai office. I'm based in Dubai, as I already mentioned, and I don't know, for the people, and most of you, I believe, who don't know Cedar Rose yet, it's a credit and compliance risk management company with offices in Cyprus, where we are headquartered, and the UAE. We offer technology solutions to governments and corporate organizations worldwide to help them assess the risk of doing business with their clients, suppliers, and any kind of third parties. We are proud to have one of the world's most comprehensive database of companies for the Middle East and Africa region, and also more than 240 million companies globally. The agenda for today, like Murad already mentioned it actually, will be focusing on three key components that I would like to present and discuss with you for that matter. The first one will be access to data, and more specifically, we will try to identify the access to corporate and financial risk information and data in this region. Then all the different challenges of basically using and collecting bad data in any kind of organizations. And we will list the causes and consequences of dealing with these bad data and risk management process. And eventually, finally, the solution, as I would like to basically try to understand how technology supports risk management and risk management teams to access quality data, specifically in this region as well. Obviously, I will try to do a quick presentation of Cedar Rose before we jump into the Q&A at the same time. Just a quick word here. We all know that business is today international, global, with more opportunities for growth. We also witnessed an increase of fines at national, regional, and international levels for failures to conduct thorough credit and compliance risk management verifications. The main reason for this is that most companies, and even more the small and medium enterprises, do not complete a 360-degree due diligence or financial risk analysis before doing business. So let's jump into our agenda today. So the access to data. And what I would like to start with is that everybody is aware that even if the COVID-19 pandemic has actually slowed the trend, that Middle Eastern and African economies are rapidly growing with innovation, sustainability, and advanced technologies as its core pillars. From the likes of Saudi 2030 vision, which is set to transform the country, to the use of technology in most African countries to transform their economies, it's very evident that the whole region is rapidly transforming. So in summary, this region poses huge potential for investment, growth, and sustainability. But the question is, for professional people and entrepreneurs like us, how do we ensure that our customers or suppliers and any kind of third party that we deal with are worthy, remain compliant, and do not represent a threat to our business growth and reputation, especially when reliable data in this region seems so much elusive, basically. So we have seen the digitization of data sets. We have seen examples of open access to data framework, but eventually overall data availability in this region remains scarce. And as such, it requires a lot more research and innovation to utilize the gems that this region has to offer. And it's also important to take into account that there are fundamental differences between the availability of commercial and financial data in the developed world. So whatever you can find in Europe, in the US, in some Asian countries, might be totally different from what you can find in other emerging countries like Africa, North Africa, or the Middle East. So it's very wise to ensure that everybody is aware of all potential pitfalls when conducting business in this region. So what I would like to do as well is to get your support, but maybe also mostly your participation in some of food for thought questions. So I do not expect you to all answer these questions here. It's more for you to think about your current processes and infrastructure in your own companies. And I will not discuss this openly right now, but it might serve as raising some interrogation for you, and you can also ask some question later on. This question is the first out of 3 that I would like to ask today. It's regarding access to data and information in corporate risk management assessment. So basically, in your opinion, what is the most difficult information to source, identify, and collect when conducting a corporate risk assessment management process? So it can be anything related to corporate and operational profile of the company. So anything related to the registration details, can be to identify the key stakeholders, so who are the directors, shareholders, senior management, and eventually also the ultimate beneficiary owners of the company. It can be any kind of qualitative assessment. So all the experience that you can get from suppliers, customers, contractors, collectors of the target company, for example. It can also be anything related to public records. So if you have information and data on bankruptcy, debt collection, late payment, and everything related to updated financials, or it might be something else. So we'll let you just a few seconds to think about these different difficulties, depending if you are a small or medium enterprise, depending if you are in the banking, the retail, or any kind of other sectors. It might differ, obviously, but this is something that I would like you to think of and maybe to discuss at the end of this session as well, for the good of this panel and this forum as well. Okay. So one key example that I really would like to investigate further is the access to information in free zone jurisdiction. So we know that there are certain procedures that can make it difficult to attain the necessary data for you or your company, globally speaking. But there are strict limitations on publicly available information that can be lawfully obtained. And one of the most serious barriers to data accessibility is the practice of onshore jurisdiction, or also anything related to free zone entities. So the later concept, so free zone entities, is more evident in the Middle East and in Africa, and more specifically in the UAE as well. But this is something that can be applied globally speaking, obviously, like the British Virgin Islands, for example. So when a company registers within one of these free zone authorities, they may well be seeking a higher degree of secrecy that these zones can actually offer. And this has basically created major issues for many businesses across the world, the globe. For example, the difficulty of drawing data, verifying clients or other third parties, and also checking credit worthiness. So free zone jurisdictions prove to be some of the most difficult access points to obtain information from, and most of the time require a team of dedicated and experienced professionals to gather the correct data, similar to offshore jurisdiction in other countries. So in this case, data mismanagement is also aligned with what we call data barricades, such as those from the free zone companies, for example. And the issue of these free zone restrictions may prove to be highly problematic for you and your company willing to conduct risk management assessment. But free zones are one part of the problem, but there are also other obstacles too in our regions. And for example, let's take the case of Egypt and many other African countries where company registration data is still held on handwritten paper registers or in PDF files, for example, and not even digitized, let alone structured. So bringing this data online is a slow and laborious process. And in this case, it's very important that when dealing with scarce data, you either research or hire a dedicated team who have the know-how and expertise to access the data that you wish to find. And if not, basically, you may end up with the wrong data, and this may have fundamental drawbacks.
Oh, on n'entend rien, Frédéric?
A business risk analysis is the measure of a business risk profile, which is made up from a number of factors to understand the position of a business and its level of corporate, financial, and reputational risk. So more specifically, an indication of the business potential reliability in terms of meeting its legal, operational, and financial obligations as well. But most of the time, at global level, in Europe, the States, and other very transparent countries, several types of information regarding the business are collected. It might be everything related to company background information, like the trade license, the share certificates, the article of associations, the financial of the company, and so on and so on, but also everything related to legal filings of the company from the courts or any other government organization. So yes, these official data and documents add great depth of knowledge to a risk management report, but these are not always available in countries in the Middle East and Africa region, simply because basically the filing of these documents is not a legal requirement. So when we know these difficulties, what data should be considered for risk management purposes when access to information in this region is basically restricted? So what we do at Cedar Rose, but it might be different from other companies or from other solution providers, when we do a compliance or credit risk analysis, is to look into a variety of factors. And these are a few of the main factors that you can see on the screen that could affect this assessment. So we can speak about country and date of incorporation, the company size, the legal form of the company, who are the key stakeholders. It might be everyone related to as shareholders, as directors, senior management. The industry and the register activities are also very important. Let's take an example. If you are currently dealing in exporting some electronics to a company, but this company register activities is linked to dairy, milk, and any other of this product, you know that you will face an issue because it's not possible for this company to import this product from you, initially speaking. Obviously, the capital and the financial, if you are able to access them, is very important. Similar to any kind of public records, so any kind of bankruptcy information, any kind of legal court and judgment information is also very important whenever it's available. And the last one that we also emphasize a lot is any kind of trade references. So anytime we can actually get information on the banks, the auditors, third parties such as suppliers, contractors, agents, and so on of the company, and get some what we would say qualitative assessment of the target company is very important for us to conduct these risk management assessment for the same. What's important to consider as well is that these factors are pivotal to either a positive or negative business risk analysis. But these data points alone are basically not enough because other factors have to be considered as well. What's very important is to look into the reliability and the freshness of the data because it's of fundamental importance when investing in a business risk profile, especially in our region. So let's look into these three categories. Firstly, the origin of the basic registration and activity data. So whenever this information has been extracted from official sources like a registry, for example, or collected from other less reliable sources such as business directories, social media, or even the subject website, is very important. Yes, of course, not every country has commercial registration data available online, but if it's online, it may also be actually in the local language. It may not be free of charge to access. So it's very important to understand the reliability of the source when you collect these information from, because you never know what you can trust. And obviously, something coming from government sources related to company registration details is the most reliable, and that's what we rely on most of the time for that matter. So secondly, it's related to the last date of the data. So the date of the data is very important. Whether it has been updated last week, last month, or last year will make a huge difference for you. So what we advise is for the data to be as updated as possible, especially when you are dealing with extending large amounts of business with your partner. Of course, we know that registration information in this region is usually only updated annually or even less frequently in many countries, but that's something that you need to consider because information change, data change, and if you're not aware of these freshness of the data, it might impact your business eventually. And the last important factor that I would like to highlight here is perhaps surprisingly the original language of the data. Misinterpretation or incorrect translation of crucial information can lead to errors, incorrect identification of the company, or even overlook important links to other companies, directors, shareholders because of mistranslation that may affect the overall risk analysis for the same. So it's very important that if you collect information from Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other countries, that you have actually a research team collecting the information in Arabic, for example, if it's available from the registry in Arabic. And then you can rely on trusted internal team or support companies to translate it according to the right references at the same time. So consequently, due to the variety of factors that a reliable, automated, and instantly available risk management report should contain, we still must recognize the difference between the developed world and the emerging countries as well, because reliability, freshness, and language of the data is most of the time easier to manage in countries like in Europe or in countries in the US, for example, because they've been obliged to provide this kind of transparency for a very long time as well. Okay, so now that we have looked into the difficulties to access data and information in our region, I would like to look at another key challenge, which is accessing, relying, and using bad data, because it's something very critical as well. So an essential component to successfully monitor risk management is the quality of the data that is collected during the process, such as client onboarding process. So it's crucial to monitoring, as bad data can cause several problems for businesses that do not immediately take corrective action. Of course, you may ask, what is bad data? So every different companies might have different definitions, but personally at Cedar Rose, we define bad data as any information that can be flawed, misleading, or without structure. Basically, no one is immune to bad data, and if it's not actually acknowledged and fixed at an early stage, then it can cause serious complications. In practice, companies will traditionally start collecting their customers' data during the onboarding process and will continue to do so for CRM management purposes. However, companies are now required also to collect data as part of compliance and other financial regulatory process. So therefore, data collection has become more complicated, which means that to be able to fix dirty data from the beginning, you must understand these causes. I have three causes that I would like to highlight here. Is that the first one is an assumption that companies feed their customer information directly into their internal system. However, because the data is collected and maintained according to different stages of the life cycle, it rarely meets standard prerequisites, and therefore the result in this case is bad data. Another cause for that is because sales and support representatives manually enter all the data related to a transaction into the software before it reaches the system. it can result in low quality data. So this process is known as enrichment, and it is highly sensitive to the smallest variation in data quality. And in more details, the slightest mistakes in the data's entry will impact its relevancy and usefulness basically for the next stages of the process. And lastly, the fact that many businesses work with affiliate brands that target or benefit from the same customer database can complicate the collection of accurate and connected data even further, meaning that the more parties that are part of the transaction process, the easier it is for inaccurate data to enter the monitoring system, and the harder it is to make connections between data sets. So in conclusion, risk management, assessment, and monitoring activities can only be successful when they have detailed information on the initiating entity, the business processing the transaction, and on the parties who benefit from the exchange. So the more quality detail the system has, the more accurately it can detect fraudulent behavior and high-risk customers for the same. Therefore, when the info entering the database is inaccurate or irrelevant, it creates what we call a garbage in, garbage out scenario that makes the monitoring process ineffective. So just before we go into the consequences of bad data, another question for the food of thought that I would like you to look at. So the question is, how often has false, inaccurate, or missing data been the main cause of conducting additional and costly research and analysis in your risk management department? It can be too many times because it's a very big challenge for your organization. It can be sometimes because bad data is a problem, but you have a team working on it to resolve it. It can be only a few times because you trust your process, you trust your team, and they are very capable of, or never actually because you already have a perfect system in place that you can trust, and bad data has never been a challenge for your organization. So a few seconds for you to think about this before I move to the next slide, which is going to be on the effects of bad data, basically. Okay, so the next slide is on these consequences and the negative effects. So poor quality data is a major concern for anyone in the risk management world for a number of reasons. We will explain that later on. However, the concerns surrounding data quality can be boiled down to 2 points. First, from my experience, from my company experience, bad data is extremely common, and bad data can have serious consequences of your business. Consequences of bad data might be several. For example, false positive are alerts for behavior that seems dangerous, but in reality it isn't. Each time this happens, it means that a risk management analyst must conduct further research to provide proof of why each highlighted activity is not a risk for the company. Meaning that to investigate each alert, companies require additional workforce, additional time, additional resources, and thus cost to redirect the time and focus away from dealing with actual fraudulent cases. And even if companies employ the latest technology to monitor and alert them of risky customers, many risk management systems will miss many true positives if the information in the database is basically inaccurate. So having poor quality data, bad data, leading to false positive or missing these real positive is actually just a matter of additional resources, time, and cost for the company eventually. That's what we have experienced ourselves. What I would like, so we have looked into the difficulty of accessing different data. We have looked into the causes and the consequences of basically using and monitoring data in our system. Now, what I would like to look into is how technology can support risk management teams to access basically quality data. And so before we go into the presentation, a last question for that matter that I would like you to look into and that we can actually discuss at the end of the presentation again. So in your opinion, is technology essential to help you conduct more effective risk management investigations on your local and international customer, suppliers, and partners? So how important is technology for that matter? So it's yes, no, or maybe you don't know yet about this. I mean, I'm biased, obviously. I believe technology is very important, and because we provide these technology solutions, but it might not be the case for every company. Obviously, depending on your activity, depending on the kind of clients that you deal with or the type of suppliers you deal with, you might not need technologies all the time, but data is still very important, and making sure that you have the right data to make your business decision is always very important for that matter. Okay, so looking into the technology-driven service for data. In the last few years, all industries have seen increased regulations regarding compliance and risk management. So with laws cracking down and increased penalties, private organizations can no longer afford to disregard their obligations, right? So at the same time, the numerous crises have demonstrated that no company, no industry is immune to payment default, credit risk, or compliance risk from their customers, even if they've worked with them for a very long time and they believe that they know them very well. A case that happened actually to us a few weeks ago is that one of our clients told us that they didn't need any more credit risk report on some of their customers because they've worked with them for a very long time. But basically, last week, it came back to say that it faced huge challenges with one of these key clients, and they were expecting to collect the money back from them because they have not paid for quite some time. And he was very surprised because it was something that they have never actually faced or highlighted in the past. But because of COVID-19, because of all the crisis, we have seen actually even big companies, big partners that we believe we can trust going into some challenges. So it's very important to always monitor even your key clients and suppliers for that matter. So the reason is that during these times, all of these different crises, many companies have turned to technology and technology providers to automate data collection and analysis. I will now try to briefly detail three of these key aspects. So the first one is digitization of risk management procedures, then machine learning, and eventually application program interface, or also known as API. So let's look into the digitization of risk management procedures. So increasing regulation nationally and internationally has pushed technology companies to develop and harness technology to automate and make risk management a more straightforward and more effortless task. Today, technology companies have supported willingness by all businesses to redesign their operation so they can include risk management within their procedures. So as mentioned earlier, risk management teams are facing increased pressure, so they must find new solutions to ease this burden. And in the future, we believe that technology and data provider companies will continue to enable private organizations across industry to digitize many of their risk management processes and remove all the inefficiencies, delays, and excess paperwork that is typically a substantial part of these obligations. And by continuing to bake into risk management procedures into a digital workflow, companies can reduce costs, time, and labor needed to manually complete and monitor these risk management aspects. In addition, they can maintain their focus and resources on the customer and the supplier experience, which means that they will be able to cultivate stronger relationships with their partners as well as develop long-term loyalty. Next one is machine learning. So the second key component is very important because today's market is growing continuously, more competitive and technology advanced. So how do companies compete in this market? And one answer can be found through machine learning. We believe at Cedar Rose that machine learning can help companies get an advantage over the competitors by granting a better understanding of the most vital aspect of any purchase, any business. It is the customer. Because imbued with that knowledge, companies can offer better customer experience, provide highly customized services and products, and streamline their operations. And in addition, all of these machine learning algorithms leverage large data sets to determine patterns and construct meaningful recommendations. So likewise, risk management modeling is a field with access to large amount of diverse corporate, financial, and behavioral data, where machine learning can be deployed to add analytical value into that. And for example, in more details, a behavioral and predictive modeling approach enables to analyze microdata at a third-party level and predict the future risk of an individual entity benchmark against the company, customer, or supplier's portfolio, or the industry as a whole as well. So as of today, if you can actually register all of your companies in one specific platform that will actually analyze every companies individually based on specific information and benchmarking this information against a portfolio or an industry as a whole, will enable you to highlight this company and the risk of this company faster than just waiting for the challenge to basically happen in your business relationship. And the last one, so it's API. So API has revolutionized the way that the world operates and has provided better data sharing efficiency. So this machine-to-machine interface can transfer data in real time and provide an array of instant possibilities and efficiencies. Most important, APIs help create seamless networks in order to improve value transfer with your suppliers, customers, clients, partners, and employees. Risk management is all about resource efficiency, right? So above a certain volume, it starts to make more sense to integrate risk management activities through an API into your own system. So we have our own APIs at Cedar Rose. So any kind of all products and services can be accessible through APIs. So for some companies that order maybe only 1 to 5 reports per month, API doesn't make sense because you need an IT infrastructure behind it. You need IT people to implement it and embed it into your system. But once you have hundreds or thousands of even more than that per year request, it makes sense because it will save you a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of cost, because all of these manual activities that you need to take into consideration there. So it enables you to create lean processes that suit your particular business model. And API access offer full flexibility and freedom to pick and choose the right solution and data that you need, basically. For example, if we provide you with a report and you believe that this report is too much, you only need a few sections of this report, through API, you can pick and choose whatever information and data you believe is more useful for your organization. So basically, it brings you a full dynamic real-time access to extensive global data across countries and industries. So this was basically the overall presentation for today. The last steps of what I wanted to discuss here is firstly the 4 key takeaways that I would like to discuss with you. Then quickly I will look into Cedar Rose in more details to provide you maybe with some answers that for your question that you might have, and then we'll look into the Q&A session for the same. So the 4 key takeaways that I would like you to remind, if there is anything that I would like you to remember from this presentation, is first, only a limited number of companies today complete a thorough due diligence and financial risk analysis before doing business, even though that there are laws, regulation at national and international levels that are basically increasing and fines as well. 2, reliable and updated corporate data in Middle East and Africa remains mostly elusive, although global trade is increasing and companies want to build, grow, and maintain compliance and trustworthy business relationships. 3, poor quality data is a major concern for risk management professionals, as it leads to additional resources, time, and cost to complete a thorough risk assessment profile on the new and existing customer, suppliers, and partners. And lastly, technology enables organizations across countries and industries to digitize many of their risk management processes and remove the inefficiencies, delays, and excess paperwork that is typically a substantial part of these obligations. Okay, so I hope it was interesting. Just a quick word on our company, Cedar Rose, if you allow me. So basically, Cedar Rose was established in 1997, initially in the UK, but we rapidly moved the headquarters in Cyprus, and now we have 2 offices in Cyprus and the UAE. We closed the Lebanon office a few years ago for different geopolitical and internal reasons at the same time. We started as an expert of the Middle East and Africa region because we really wanted to provide a link between these regions and the rest of the world. And we believe at the time that information was missing in this part of the world to enable trusted business relationship, globally speaking. Now we have obviously become an international and global actor, and I will discuss that just later on. So as mentioned, we've been in business for 25 years this year, actually. We conduct around 40,000 risk management reports per year. We have around 4 clients globally that order on an annual basis. And as already mentioned, we have a database of companies and individuals. So we have around 4 billion identities that we can verify instantly for any kind of KYC purposes. And we have also more than 240 million companies in our database at the time being. A breakdown of this information. So as you can see, we have very good coverage in different regions like Europe, Asia, Middle East, and Africa. What's very important for you to know is that, especially in MENA region, our coverage of companies in this region is most of the time more than 90%. Just to give you some ideas, or in Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Algeria, for example, we have more than 99% coverage for these countries. If I compare it to the UAE, we have around 80–85% because we have a lot of free zone entities here, and data is not accessible from these free zone entities, or at least most of them. And in Egypt, for example, I already mentioned a lot of this information is still on paper or PDFs, and it's very difficult to access. So it means that every time that we need to access information there, we need to send someone to visit the Chamber of Commerce registries or other government enterprises. And obviously, Africa has been very important for us as well over the years. So we have increased our capabilities in Africa as well to collect these data at any point in time. So in terms of support that we provide, obviously, any companies coming to us might want to identify some new partners, new customers for their services. We help them authenticate and assess and mitigate the potential risk from the onboarding process whenever they need to onboard these new customers and suppliers. And obviously, we'll help them monitor the ongoing operations during the life cycle of any kind of suppliers and customers. In terms of products and solutions, so we are specialized in credit and financial risk management. So we basically offer any kind of credit risk reports, true reports, true API, but we have also our database access that I will just quickly show after. We offer some compliance risk management solutions as well. Anything related to due diligence, compliance checks, plus sanctions, steps, adverse media. And we have also solutions to instantly verify the authenticity of information that is provided by companies and individuals. We call that the KYB, KYC, or electronic identity verification. So that we can see here. We are currently developing an automated customer onboarding. So we want to remove as many manual processes as possible from our clients. So whenever there is a new client, the whole onboarding process can be automated, meaning that the analyst can only need to see and assess the results of this onboarding process. And obviously, some of our clients, they just want to access all of our data sets, which can also be marketing lists, but mostly they just want to use our data sets and plug it into their own system. Just a highlight here, this is what I mentioned to be our database. So we allow to have a non-demand subscription access to the data. More than 240 million companies, it's increasing. We are currently speaking with new data partners to help us cover more of the North America region. These companies are basically in our database today. It doesn't mean that if you give us the name of another company not in our database, we will always be able to identify. If we can identify this company, to provide you with a report on this company. This just means that this company is not yet into our database. So it's used for credit and compliance risk investigation. Everything can be integrated and automated, obviously, with multiple user access. We offer monitoring options as well for our client, and depending on what you want, we can tailor this subscription to your needs. So if you tell me that you need the global access, if you need only Africa, you need only Morocco, you need Bhutan and Saudi Arabia, for example, anything is possible and customizable for the sale. So I'm done speaking. Sorry for the time taking. I hope it was very interesting for you. And now, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, whether it's in French, English, my pleasure to answer this.
So thank you very much, Frederic, for this interesting and also amazing presentation. There's a lot of information with regards to risk management and how technology or digitalization can help risk management to do risk management well. So we talk about the garbage in and garbage out. This is a model that if we have poor data, so the decision will be based on the poor data and the decision will be wrong. So technology can help, but it's not enough. But human interpretation and human collection of data and verification should be also in the same time as technology is doing. So the floor is, if you have any questions, please. Si vous avez des questions, s'il vous plaît. The floor is open.
Les premières questions sont toujours les plus difficiles, apparemment.
Moi j'ai une question, mais c'est une question juste d'ordre pédagogique. Est-ce que M. Frédéric peut faire une petite synthèse en français par rapport à la présentation?
Oui,
juste une petite synthèse, s'il vous plaît. Merci beaucoup.
Pas de souci. De toute façon, je passerai la présentation à Mourad juste après. S'il veut la partager avec tous ceux qui ont participé durant ce webinaire, il n'y a aucun souci. Donc, pour résumer, ce que je peux dire, c'est qu'on a de l'expérience, nous, sur les marchés que l'on considère comme étant difficiles. On est des spécialistes du management de risque, donc tout ce qui va être relié à la conformité, tout ce qui va être relié au risque crédit également. C'est tout ce que l'on a été capable de développer pendant toutes ces années. Notre expérience par rapport à ces risques, finalement, c'est que dans nos régions, ici plus particulièrement le Moyen-Orient, l'Afrique et l'Afrique du Nord, accéder aux informations est quand même extrêmement difficile. Tout n'est pas transparent pour diverses raisons. Les premières raisons peuvent être que ce n'est pas demandé ou exigé par les autorités de divulguer l'ensemble des informations. À d'autres moments, les informations peuvent être demandées, mais elles ne sont pas accessibles publiquement sur différentes plateformes. Ou si elles sont accessibles, parfois elles peuvent être difficiles d'accès, elles peuvent être dans des langues que l'on ne comprend pas. Là, je parle pour mon cas. Si, par exemple, je devais lire quelque chose en arabe qui provient d'un pays arabophone, je serais incapable moi-même de pouvoir le mentionner. Et de la même manière, aujourd'hui, une traduction, par exemple, du prénom Hassan, par exemple, il n'a qu'une seule orthographe en arabe, alors qu'il peut avoir 10, 15 orthographes en caractère latin, par exemple. Donc, c'est là où la traduction reste aussi problématique. Donc, on sait qu'il y a un problème d'accès à l'information. Ça, c'est la première partie. Spécifiquement, quand on compare nos pays avec ce qui se fait en Europe, et un des pays les plus transparents à ce niveau-là reste le Royaume-Uni, où tout est facilement accessible à partir d'une seule base de données, et on peut avoir l'ensemble des informations sur une seule société. Sachant ça, la deuxième partie, c'est quand on accède à différentes données ou informations, il faut faire attention à quel type d'informations on reçoit. Parce que si on accède à des informations qui ne sont pas justes, j'ai appelé bad data ici, ça peut causer de gros problèmes. Parce que si on base notre jugement et notre décision sur des données qui sont fausses ou qui ne sont plus à jour, c'est là où on peut rencontrer de larges difficultés. Donc, j'ai mentionné différentes causes par rapport à accéder à des informations qui peuvent être mauvaises. Donc, j'ai mentionné notamment la source de l'information. Donc, si vous prenez des informations qui viennent des autorités gouvernementales, c'est quand même beaucoup plus… on peut y faire plus confiance que quelque chose qui viendrait des réseaux sociaux, qui viendrait du site de l'entreprise ou qui viendraient de différents sites Internet qui référencent des informations. C'est la première chose. La deuxième, c'est, j'en ai déjà parlé, c'est la langue de l'information. C'est vraiment important de prendre ça en considération parce qu'on a remarqué en Arabie Saoudite très régulièrement que les informations, même sur les registres du commerce saoudien qui étaient en anglais, différaient de celles qui étaient en arabe. Parce qu'ils avaient leurs propres moyens pour traduire les informations et on s'est rendu compte qu'en fait, ils traduisaient très mal les informations. Ça peut donner des mauvaises données finalement dans votre système. Et la dernière partie, c'est sur quand est-ce que l'information a été mise à jour la dernière fois. Parce que si une société aujourd'hui change d'actionnaire, change d'administrateur ou d'autres informations, finalement les états financiers ne sont plus à jour, et que vous basez votre information sur une information qui n'est pas à jour, vous prenez un risque également, que ce soit pour votre business, que ce soit pour vous faire payer si jamais c'est un client. Donc, ça devient extrêmement difficile. C'est toujours important de prendre en compte la date qui a été vérifiée pour cette entreprise. Donc, ça, ce sont les causes. En termes de conséquences, basiquement, si vous prenez en compte des mauvaises informations, que vous les mettez dans votre système et que vous vous rendez compte finalement trop tard que c'était des mauvaises informations, les conséquences et les effets négatifs, ça va être plus de temps parce que vos équipes vont devoir rechercher plus longtemps, vont devoir analyser plus longtemps, vont devoir refaire l'ensemble de leurs différents process. Ça va demander plus de ressources également, donc c'est-à-dire plus de coûts internes et externes nécessaires pour ça. Donc, au final, si vous ne prenez pas d'informations justes et correctes dès le début, ça va être un coût supplémentaire que vous n'allez peut-être pas voir dans vos états financiers, mais finalement, l'efficacité de vos équipes et l'efficacité de votre système en seront en pâtis par rapport à cela. Et ce que je mentionnais en dernière partie, c'est qu'au niveau technologique, on peut finalement arriver à éviter ce genre de problématiques. Il y a beaucoup de nouvelles sociétés, telles que Cedar Rose, mais il y en a plein d'autres. Je ne cherche pas à mettre en valeur seulement ce que l'on fait, mais il y a beaucoup de sociétés aujourd'hui qui promettent de pouvoir digitaliser ces différents process, de pouvoir collecter la data de manière automatique et de la mettre dans votre système également. Donc là, ça part de la digitalisation de ces différents process et aussi de ce que j'ai parlé de API. Donc, c'est la connexion entre vos systèmes sans qu'il y ait aucune intervention manuelle. Donc, aujourd'hui, on a une API. Si vous voulez avoir accès à nos données qui sont dans notre système et que vous ne voulez pas recevoir un rapport PDF, vous ne voulez pas que quelqu'un reçoive un email par rapport à ça, cette information peut être transmise directement de notre base de données à votre système. Système qui peut être Salesforce, qui peut être SAP, par exemple. Et directement, cette information sera pluguée là-bas, qui va faciliter, automatiser et accélérer la prise de décision de votre part. Et la dernière partie que je voulais mentionner, c'est tout ce qui est en lien avec l'intelligence artificielle et l'ensemble de ces techniques-là. C'est qu'aujourd'hui, quand vous avez accès à de nombreuses données, que ce soit sur des entreprises ou autres, et que vous mettez en place des algorithmes, ils vous permettent de calculer des scores et des risques sur ces diverses entreprises. Et c'est ce que l'on fait aujourd'hui à Cedar Rose, c'est que sur base de notre expérience, sur base de l'ensemble des données que l'on a, on peut se permettre de calculer un score de risque sur chacune des entreprises. Aujourd'hui, ce score de risque est basé principalement sur le risque crédit, mais on travaille pour obtenir un risque de conformité et un risque plus général sur l'entreprise, et pour pas seulement le baser sur le risque crédit. Mais c'est très important de pouvoir bénéficier d'un outil automatique qui va empêcher une analyse humaine dessus, parce que l'humain, c'est lui qui est généralement en défaut. C'est l'humain qui va être fatigué, c'est l'humain qui ne va pas appliquer à chaque fois les mêmes process, c'est l'humain qui va peut-être être corrompu par l'entreprise pour changer son analyse sur la société. Donc aujourd'hui, on utilise, et c'est aussi des standards internationaux, ce genre d'algorithmes qui nous permettent d'accélérer, de faciliter, d'assurer du bon risque sur les différentes sociétés que l'on est amené à promouvoir. Donc voilà, en résumé, ce que je voulais présenter dans la présentation. J'espère que c'était utile.
Non, parfait, parfait. Merci beaucoup, Frédéric. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions? Donc, S'il y a des
Merci
questions,
Frédéric, merci beaucoup.
Je vous en prie, Abdelkader.
C'est Morad, je peux?
Oui, bien sûr, allez-y.
Non, c'est juste par rapport à la responsabilité du cabinet qui fait l'intelligence économique pour un client en matière d'analyse de risque. Par exemple, pour le cas d'un client, il y a il y a un opérateur ou un intervenant dans une banque qui demande des renseignements, des datas sur un client et ce client, par la suite, devient défaillant. Est-ce qu'il y a une responsabilité du cabinet qui fait l'intelligence économique ou c'est la banque ou l'opérateur qui en est responsable de la gestion de l'information qui lui a été communiquée? Merci.
Merci pour cette question, Abdelkader. C'est une question en effet très importante. Alors, plusieurs moyens d'y répondre. La première réponse que j'aimerais à vous faire, c'est qu'une société qui conduit ce genre de recherche et d'enquête, elle promet toujours de faire le maximum de ses recherches. Elle ne promet pas le résultat. Donc, si on fait due diligence, par exemple, et qu'aujourd'hui, on me dit je tiens à connaître la réputation de cette entreprise, par exemple, on mettra tout en place pour faire un maximum de recherche, d'analyse et d'investigation sur cette entreprise. Mais si, dans le cas de ce projet, on n'est pas arrivé à pouvoir identifier la société ou on n'est pas arrivé à pouvoir identifier des personnes ou des ressources qui puissent nous donner des informations sur ces sociétés-là, on ne pourra pas les inventer. Et de toute manière, je préfère ne pas les inventer et vous dire que ça n'existe pas parce que c'est déjà une information en soi de dire que ça n'existe pas. Ça, c'est le premier point. Le deuxième point que je voulais mentionner, c'est que lorsque l'on produit un rapport, on a ce qu'on appelle une échelle de risque et de graduation sur les sources et l'information. Ce qui veut dire que nous, initialement, on va toujours aller rechercher au maximum l'information que l'on pense être la plus de confiance. Donc, on va aller sur les registres de commerce, on va aller sur les chambres de commerce, on va aller sur les ressources autres gouvernementales, etc., etc. Ça, c'est le premier point toujours. Et dans notre langage, on va considérer que c'est la meilleure source et que si on était amené à pouvoir confirmer cette information d'une deuxième source, on va pouvoir dire que l'information également a été vérifiée et qu'on peut vraiment croire cette information. Donc, c'est ce qu'on appelle un source grading. Donc, on va grader la source de A à D, donc A étant très bonne source gouvernementale, par exemple, et l'information de 1 à 4. 1, elle a été confirmée plusieurs fois. 4, on a collecté cette information-là, mais on n'y prête pas vraiment d'attention. Ça, c'est la première chose. Seconde chose, ce qu'on mentionne toujours, c'est que nous, on produit ce qu'on a pu rechercher, collecter et analyser. En ce sens que si l'information qui est aujourd'hui disponible sur le registre du commerce est fausse, je ne suis pas nécessairement en état de pouvoir l'infirmer ou la confirmer, mis à part si elle a été infirmée par une autre source de même niveau. Mais s'il n'y a qu'une source, le registre du commerce, et qui me donne une fausse information sur cette entreprise-là, moi, en tant qu'intervenant, je ne peux pas être responsable de ce cas-là parce que je vous ai donné l'information la plus valable par rapport à nos recherches. Mais dans l'ensemble des cas, je veux dire, sur les 25 ans qu'on était nous-mêmes dans le marché, et je ne peux pas parler pour les autres compagnies qui sont concurrentes par rapport à Cedar Rose, mais de nous, on n'a jamais rencontré de problème de ce type-là, d'une entreprise qui a rencontré des problèmes par après et qui nous a mis en cause par rapport à ça. Si on a eu des difficultés, on a toujours essayé d'expliquer aux clients, d'expliquer les raisons, les pourquoi et les comment. Et s'il y a matière à conduire une recherche supplémentaire pour infirmer, confirmer une difficulté, on est toujours là, disposé à le faire, bien entendu. De temps en temps, on demande à ce que si ça sort du cadre du projet, automatiquement, ce sera quelque chose en plus. Mais si ça reste dans le projet, ça restera part du montant initial qu'on a négocié avec notre client, bien entendu.
Merci Frédéric, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Est-ce qu'il y a des personnes peut-être du
Bonjour Frédéric.
ouais, Abdelati.
Bon, c'est un plaisir de te voir et c'est un plaisir de t'écouter. Très intéressante présentation. Dans le même sens, je voudrais vous poser une petite question. Est-ce qu'il y a, un dispositif pour mesurer la qualité des livrables rendus aux clients, justement par rapport à ces informations? Est-ce qu'il y a un système dans ce sens qui permet de dire qui va vous permettre de mieux catégoriser vos sources par rapport à la qualité de l'information recueillie en amont?
Alors, c'est un peu compliqué parce que je serais tenté de dire que nos livrables sont toujours pareils. Il n'y a pas de différence entre un rapport et un autre. La différence va être sur la transparence de l'information qu'on a réussi à collecter ou pas. Donc, si j'arrive à collecter énormément d'informations, automatiquement, le rapport sera beaucoup plus fourni que si je fais une recherche sur une société enregistrée aux îles Vierges. Automatiquement, j'aurai beaucoup moins d'informations. Mais la recherche que l'on va faire sera toujours de la même qualité et le rapport sera toujours prédéfini de telle sorte. En revanche, ce que je peux mentionner, deux choses supplémentaires, c'est que lorsqu'on fait un rapport de risque-crédit, si on n'est pas disposé, enfin, si on n'a pas réussi à collecter suffisamment d'informations sur une société, le risque crédit de cette société et son score et la limite crédit que l'on conseille à nos clients en sera impacté. Donc aujourd'hui, si on fait un risque crédit sur une société listée sur les marchés boursiers où on a accès à l'ensemble de l'information parce qu'elle est en obligation de le faire, automatiquement, le risque crédit sera beaucoup plus transparent et beaucoup plus juste que si on fait le même risque crédit sur une petite société, même peut-être avec un seul actionnaire et un seul dirigeant, sur laquelle on a très peu d'informations. Donc, automatiquement, le risque crédit sera beaucoup plus grand sur la petite société. La limite crédit que l'on conseille sera beaucoup plus petite. Ça, c'est une typologie d'information. La deuxième part est plus qualitative, je serais tenté de dire, parce que dans chacun de nos rapports, on a une partie commentaire où on explique ce qu'on était en mesure de faire, ce qu'on n'a pas été en mesure de faire, et une partie analyse également. Donc, si on reprenons l'exemple de cette petite société sur laquelle on a très peu d'informations, on mentionnera dans notre rapport qu'on a tenté de la joindre à multiples reprises, quels sont les numéros de téléphone qu'on a essayé de joindre, qui on a réussi à parler, est-ce qu'ils nous ont dit, est-ce qu'ils nous ont apporté des informations ou pas. Donc, cette partie commentaire et analytique est aussi part de nos rapports. Si ça répond à ta question, Abdelati.
Oui, tout à fait. Merci.
Merci, Sevlati. Donc, je pense qu'on doit clore ce webinaire. Donc, je transmettrai en fait à l'ensemble donc la présentation une fois reçue de Frédéric. Mais en fait, voilà, donc ça donc s'il y a des entreprises qui sont intéressées par des rapports de diligence, d'un accompagnement de diligence et des rapports de crédit, des rapports en fait de compliance. Donc, Cedar Rose est le meilleur partenaire qui peut répondre donc à ce genre de demande. Voilà, donc ça c'est un peu clore. Donc, je donne la parole donc, Monsieur le Président donc pour clore donc ce webinaire et je remercie donc Frédéric pour sa disponibilité, Monsieur Cedar Rose pour donc la collaboration. J'espère que donc dans les dans le futur en fait, il y aura donc des présentations assez ciblées avec des fédérations, surtout donc il y a des fédérations du secteur de la banque, et de la finance et donc tout ce qui est fonds d'investissement et private equity. Je pense que ce sont des entreprises qui sont intéressées par ce genre donc d'accompagnement. Donc à vous la parole, Monsieur le Président, pour clore ce webinaire. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Simorad, pour votre modération, votre initiative, votre contribution. Et merci beaucoup, Frédéric, pour votre brillant exposé. Également, toutes les réponses que vous avez données pour nos questions. Je suppose que les personnes présentes ils vont recevoir la présentation, ils vont aussi la diffuser à leurs collègues et partenaires.
En tout cas,
Et Cedar Rose sera mieux connu au Maroc. Je pense que vous avez déjà des clients au Maroc. Je ne sais pas si vous en avez déjà, mais je pense à travers cette présentation. Pardon ?
On en a quelques-uns, en effet, oui.
Voilà, donc à travers cette présentation, il y aura d'autres sociétés qui seront intéressées. Donc, je tiens à vous remercier vivement pour votre contribution et on espère vous revoir encore pour une autre contribution sur un autre sujet au niveau de l'animation, intelligence économique, au niveau de la CGM Rabat Salik Libre, pourquoi pas au niveau de Rabat CGM national, plutôt au niveau national pour la CGM nationale. Merci beaucoup, Simorad, et merci pour tous les participants qui nous ont accompagnés lors de ce webinaire. Et on se dit à la prochaine, Simorad.
Merci, à la prochaine, bien sûr.
Merci beaucoup, Abdelkader.
Merci,
Merci, Mourad.
merci.
Merci à tous pour votre attention.
Merci.
À très bientôt. Au revoir.